the dice. This is it. High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Talking baseball.
The grand salami.
Willie, Mickey, and the Duke.
Welcome to Fed Up, the #1 podcast where you can get up on all things Federal League. I am your host, Josh Stoll. I am happy to announce that we are back to our regularly scheduled programming. We have a brand new episode for you today. We already have a great episode lined up for you next Wednesday as well to enjoy over your 4th of July break. Excited to share more details about that guest in the coming days on our social media feed. So keep looking out on X for that update. Lots happened since we've been with you last in terms of both on the field and off the field. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the standings, starting to see some of that cream rise to the top, a little bit of separation from some of the division leaders occurring from some of the teams that are going to be expected to compete in this single A and double A. I'm going to give you a brand new look at our updated Fed Up power rankings. Guests today are from the Milltown Outlaws, Mr. Paul Jesh and Mr. Russ Bauer. They're going to join us to talk about some of the on-field flooding issues that they've had, some of the measures that they've taken to try and protect that beautiful ballpark down in Dundas. They're going to shed some light on some of the issues some of their neighbors are having as well in Newmarket and Vesely, out in Chaska. Talk about the impact that situation has had on not only their players, but their communities as well. It's been a really great effort to see people rally around them from really across the metro area. Excited to sit down and hear an update from them. Go ahead and start the baseball portion of today's show with a walk through the standings. We'll start in the American League North. Minoka Grays have opened up a 5-game lead in that division. They keep punishing teams that line up against them. The St. Michael Angels are there just a game under 500 as the next competition. Certainly seems to be the Grays division at this point, which really doesn't come as a surprise to many. Capital City has experienced a number of struggles. They sit at 2-6. The Bombers were able to scratch across the win. They sit at 1-8. The Red West Legends still looking to get on the board. Just about halfway through the season, they stand at 0-8. In the American League East, the East Metro Mammoth remain one of the 2 unbeatens in the league. They are at 10-0. They have now scored 100 runs in those 10 games. Just continuing to pound the ball and keep the pressure on just about everyone that they play. Metro Saints have come back to the pack a little bit after their hot start. They sit at 5-3, just 4 games back in that division. Settling out, the River Falls Groupers are now 4-4. The St. Croix Valley Silverbacks at 3-3. The RC Rockets up the rear in that division, sitting at 1-5. Tighter race in the American League South features the Burnsville Bulldogs. After losing their opener to Milltown, they have now won 9 games in a row. They notch a win over the Apple Valley A's on Father's Day. Hastings Hurricanes, though, sit a full game back at 7-1, tied in the loss column. Town is creeping back at 7-4, just 2.5 games back. They do have the advantage of playing the Bulldogs and the Hurricanes left on the season. The Northfield Millers are at 2-8. And of course, we're all aware now that the Webster Wildcats have folded and have given up the rest of their season. The forfeits, they will conclude their season at 1-17. Another tight race in the American League West, where we have the Waconia Islanders, who hold just a narrow half-game lead over the Rockford Rail Splitters at 6-1. Chaska Voyagers now at 3-5. The Eden Prairie Flyers get their first win in the Federal League. They were able to top the Chaska Voyagers at Sunset Field. The final in that game was 12-8. 18 hits for the Flyers in that one. Chris Adams, Travis Adams, 3 hits each. Sean Flaherty had 3 hits as well. Nathan Paulson added a pair, as did Andy Steingas. Adams started that game for the Flyers and pitched well. He threw 6 innings. Didn't give up a 5 spot in the bottom of the 6th. Needed 11 innings to figure this one out. Naraki was great for the Voyagers, just a bulldog out there on the mound. He went 10 2/3. Houselock did come in and finish that up with 1 out. Jackson went 4 for 6 for the Voyagers, but the final from that one was the Flyers 12, the Chaska Voyagers 8. Chaska Diamonds bring up the rear in the American League West, sitting at 1-7. For the National League, the Rosemont Pipers continue to punish everyone not named the Apple Valley A's. They are 8-0 against the rest of the league, 0-2 against the Apple Valley A's. Christopherson keeps dealing for the Pipers, pitching well. They're relying really heavily on him. If he is able to stay healthy, that team can look forward to playing in the AAA division. The St. Anthony Norsemen are just 2.5 games back, sitting at 6-5, while the A's are 3-5. The St. Paul JTs sit at 3-6, as do the St. Paul Senators at 3-6. National League South, the Lobos still sit undefeated as one of the other undefeated teams in the league. In addition to the East Metro Mammoth, they are 10-0. The Newmarket Northerns are at 6-2. The Elko Chuggers even at 5-5. Lonsdale has started to find their groove as they are now 4-6. Winners of 4 of their last 5 contests. So the Vulcans sit at 4-7, but are benefiting from a recent influx from absorbing the Webster Wildcat teams. They certainly got a lot better with those additions. Look for them to be able to try and shake up the standings in the National League South and the playoffs beyond that. Finally, in the National League West, the battle for Big Willow is still being maintained by the Tonka Bay Lakers. They sit at 8-2. The TC Snappers just 2 games back at 5-3, while the Metro Loons are up and down. They are 5-5. Metro Saints are at 4-4. The Minnetonka Mustangs round out the division at 3-7. From the standings, we'll go ahead and launch right into our Fed Up Power Rankings. We've got a brand new edition of that. We've got 10 teams who have really separated themselves from the rest of the field. At number 10 are those Newmarket Northerns. They are 6-2. So they're led by Matt Paulson, who's hitting .625. Number 9, it's the Tonka Bay Lakers. They've fallen a few spots. They still sit at 8-2. Bauer leads the way on the mound for the Lakers. Now has a record of 2-1 and ERA of just 0.67. And then Wolf also 3-0. He's thrown 15 innings on the season. He has an ERA of just 1.87. And Scott Russert 2-1. They are definitely benefiting from a lot of great pitching. They sit at number 9. Flip over to the National League East for our number 8 team, the Rosemont Pipers. They are 8-2. The aforementioned Cliff Christopherson has thrown 42 innings on the year, has an ERA of just 1.33. He has 5 wins already on the year, just over halfway point of the season for the Pipers. They're getting solid additions from the top of that lineup from guys like Logan Pinckney, who's hitting .594, Alex Mack, who's hitting .500 with 35 at-bats, and Walker's hitting .483, an all-around solid team that continues to just keep rolling. Number 7, we have the Rockford Rail Splitters. Todd Haig has his team firing on all cylinders. Only loss being that narrow defeat against the Chaska Voyagers, but they have handled everybody else on their schedule with relative ease, scoring just a ton of runs in the process. Number 7, the Rockford Rail Splitters. But in the American League West, for our number 6 slot, the Waconia Islanders are 7-1. They are having no problem at all adjusting to the Federal League. In those 8 games, they have a run differential of +42. Of their next 3 games are against those Rail Splitters, so we will find out a lot about who is going to represent the American League West in the AAA in the next coming weeks. Number 5, the Hastings Hurricanes sit at 7-1. They've also got a big matchup coming up on Friday night as they will travel to Burnsville to take on the Burnsville Bulldogs. Those Bulldogs sit at number 4 in our rankings. The Bulldogs are 9-1 after losing that first game to Milltown. Bulldogs have some interesting tests coming up against the Hastings Hurricanes and the Newmarket Northerns this weekend. We'll find a lot about just how real the Burnsville Bulldogs are, how deep they are, do they have the pitching to continue this run. Number 3, the Minoka Grays. A lot of teams give them flack about the lack of competition in their division, but they just keep lining up and punishing whoever they keep playing. They were able to beat Dan Pluff and the St. Michael Angels in their last matchup. It was a close game, just 6-4. Pluff goes 5 innings, gives up 6 runs, just 3 of them earned. Sean Model does finish the game off for the Angels. Scott gets the win. He goes 5 2/3, and Mark Von Ruden goes an inning and a third for the save. Number 2 is East Metro Mammoth, led offensively by some usual suspects. Tom Corcoran hitting a blazing .625. He's got 4 home runs on the year. Dan Cazaza hitting .615. Emery Hull, .545. So we can't talk about the Mammoth without talking about Matt Grill. He is a perfect 7-0, leads the league in wins with an ERA of 1.05. Great to see Matt Grill back and doing what Grill does. Very notable games on the schedule for the Mammoth coming up, including what will be our game of the week next week on Sunday, June 30th. The Mammoth will take on the Minoka Grays at 5 o'clock. That game being played at Castle Field. We will have an extended look at that game, and we will learn a lot about how that shakes up the AAA standings and the Fed Up Power Rankings. And still at number 1, the Lakeville Lobos sit at 10-0. Don Erdahl has been great on the mound. He's got 26 innings logged already. He is 4-0 in the season with an ERA of just 1.06. Austin Mitchell has been great for the Lobos. He's got a couple of starts. He's thrown 12 innings with an ERA still at 0.00. Offensively, Lobos leaning on a couple of familiar names. Torrey Holt hitting .550 on the year. Nick Rathman also hitting .550 on the year. Brian Ludwig chipping in and hitting .455. Lobos now hitting the meat of their schedule. They'll take on a hot Lonsdale Jokers team. They've also got the Hastings Hurricanes coming up, as well as games against the Newmarket Northerns, the Rockford Rail Splitters, the Burnsville Bulldogs, a number of teams already in our Fed Up Power Rankings. So we will find out a lot about how good the Lakeville Lobos are, how deep they are. Can they continue pitching the way that they have when facing some really stiff competition? For now, the Lakeville Lobos sit atop our Fed Up Power Rankings. Now to bring on our guests. Again, they are from the Milltown Outlaws, Russ, Bauer, and Paul Jesh. They have an update for us on the flooding and some of the efforts going on to save beautiful staple in our league that is Memorial Park of Dundas. Let's go ahead and bring them on. It's an absolute honor to welcome from the Milltown Outlaws, Paul Jesh and Russ Bauer, to speak a little bit about some of the ongoing flooding issues that the community and the field are experiencing out in Dundas. But just want to start too, I know this is a issue that's really affecting people in a very real way. When that dam broke in Mankato, there was a couple of people who have lost their lives. There are people who are losing businesses, losing homes, being misplaced, and it's really impacting entire communities. Would love to hear, just initially, how you guys are feeling that from a community perspective and feeling that impact, baseball aside.
Yeah, I guess just right off the top, it's kind of we're spoiled to, go out to a ballpark and think that that's all we have to clean up. There's a lot of people that, you think about some of the things in their lives. You got a water situation that comes through, and that's in many ways worse than a fire. And a lot of people are getting the reset button hit on their lives, and there's a lot going on that the worst thing we have to deal with is picking up a few sandbags after we filled them. I think we got it pretty well. So just right off the top, anything we talk about here today, it's kind of, we're pretty spoiled, but really, I respond to all the people that are actually in a really bad situation with this tragedy.
Yeah, like Waterville and like I said, Mankato. There was places that have had 30 inches of rain in the last 30 days. Down in Iowa, they've had a lot. So, like Russ said, we are spoiled. We're floods, our field floods, but our homes are intact, our lives are intact. So, tough deal down south.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things though that was interesting is when we gathered last Friday to start filling sandbags and all that. I show up, I get out of my truck. Right as I get out of my truck, it starts raining again, and
Pouring.
it's funny.
Yep.
The people that were there, in some ways, I felt and again, going back to the fire analogy, like a firefighter going in, it's still raining. You're walking towards the situation. We're gonna fill that sandbags, and we're gonna put these sandbags around. Still, it's just a baseball field. I mean, it's not anyone's good that we're saving, but still, it's raining. We're in. We're gonna fill some sandbags. We're gonna put them around and do some work. And while it was still raining, filling some sandbags, and a lot of people, the community came from other towns. Saw a couple folks from Cannon Falls. I think I saw one from
Patrick.
St. Patrick. So great to see people from even neighboring communities that were less affected kind of come out. But then again, you're in the trenches working with them, filling sandbags, and it's like anything else. That's your muscle, fill some bags and pushing around the field and get it done.
Yep. 1,500 sandbags
Unbelievable.
and 25 yards of sand. So there was like 50 people, right? And it took like 4 or 5 hours to get all that done. And we saved the infield. So the infield looks good. I was there this morning. Everything's intact. The water eroded some walls. Our left field fence kind of pushed in. The center field wall, the black wall, is kind of eroded. There's going to be some building that needs to be redone, and we'll see if us or the Dukes can even get a game in this year. It's going to be a lot of work to get it back.
Yeah, and you have to love about America, about Minnesota, about small town communities, just the way that tragedy has the way of, Governor Walz has declared a state of emergency here, and tragedy has a way of binding people together and bringing out the best in communities and in people and really uniting in a great effort. Baseball plays a part in that. It's America's pastime for a reason. And I think when people are faced with times like these, though it's just a game, and even though it's just amateur ball, it definitely has a way of just binding people and bringing them together in a unique way. And I'm so glad to see people rally around you guys. Please know that the entire Federal League is thinking of your teams, of course, but your communities as well. Anyone who's been displaced, the businesses that are going to be impacted. And of course, the lives that have been lost, just absolute, tragedy.
Yep. Mother Nature can't stop her.
That's
Right.
true. She's undefeated. So give us a little bit of a status update. Just the current, you said you're able to see the infield. Give us a stat. Have you seen some recession? Do you feel like you're on the way out of this thing, or do you feel like the work is just kind of beginning?
Well, the water's gone. So it left within 36 hours, it was gone, right? And like I said, the outfield is swampy, because the water sat on for so long. That'll be fine. Warning track is all pushed in, so that's got to be pushed out or added. Like I said, the infield is intact. So our sandbagging did work, that was the goal. And it's just the mound was fine. The mound wasn't touched. It was just about 6 inches, 8 inches below the mound, the top of the mound. But it's just the building of the walls. That's going to take some time. Footing's going to have to be put in. And the eroding of the dugout area on the first base side. There's going to be some work there that's going to have to be done. But again, shout out to Mike Ludwig. He is the man. The field is the way it is because of Mike. He's out there just about every day. He does everything. It's the best playing surface for amateur ball in the state, I feel. And he basically gathered everyone together. Russ did too. Russ does all our social media. The Dukes did. It was just phenomenal to see everyone out there. Like I said, it was 50, 60 people. We're probably going to get about 50, 60 people again to get the sandbags off. And like I said, I was out there today, and it smells like 1,000 dead fish. It's just nasty. So it's going to be a lot of fun getting the sandbag out of there.
Yeah. Got the waders on, I'm sure.
If it were playable, you wouldn't want to play there right now.
Not right now, no.
It's awful. And the dugouts were well underwater. Anything in the dugouts will lift it up and kind of floating around. I mean, everything was just tossed up.
Yep.
what is the outlook? I mean, obviously, so many more important things to keep in mind, but do you feel like you could get it back to a place this season, or do you feel like you're looking most likely into 2025?
We got a month left, so it's going to be close, right? And the Dukes have a month left because they start playoffs in August. The playing surface will be good. It's just the other stuff. The fence, we got to get a fence company in there to do that, new footings and stuff. Maybe best case 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Gasca's still underwater, right? I think they had a reflood to keep the water from homes. They might be, I think Jamie said mid-July, but that might get pushed out farther too now.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about that. I'm less familiar with. So they intentionally flooded uh, the field there to save surrounding businesses and homes.
Yes, I believe so. I think I read that today or yesterday. Yep.
That's what I read as well. I don't know any more than that, but the headlines that I read were they had to flood that low area. And I think what that translates to is the Russellville Dam that they released or held up to put water in place that otherwise would have went into a residential area.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, obviously, people making some really tough decisions when it comes to that. Obviously Dundas, an amazing field. Chaska has an amazing ballpark there. You hate to see it, and especially, fields that are viewed as essential pieces of amateur baseball in Minnesota, downright cathedrals, in my opinion, in terms of just the beauty and the memories that have been made and created there. I hate to see it, but yeah, absolutely. When it comes to the choice between that or residential area, it's no brainer.
And again, it's just a field, so it'll come back. They'll all come back.
So in terms of the plan going forward, playing games, have you had people reaching out? Have you been able to kind of make a contingency plan on how you might be able to get your season played?
yeah, absolutely. Huge shout out to guys like Nick Rathman from Lakeville Lobos. He reached out and offered up to Blake School to use their field. He's the athletic director there, so he would take a lot for that up to us free of charge. I don't know if I'll actually take advantage of that one because geographically, getting up there might be a little difficult for a home game. But we do have a number of fields here between Dundas and Northfield that we could fill something in. We got the two colleges, we got high school fields. So we'll probably make do with what we can in town. Explore all those options and then see where we have to go from there. I played my town ball in Faribault, so I have connections. I have connections over at Faribault still that we could probably get a game or two in at Battlefield if we need to. We actually were slated to play there on Sunday, but I guess the Arts and Rec department and police have the whole park shut down there as well because there's similar situation. They've got two rivers that meet there right as you cross Highway 3 into town, and they don't want anyone going around it into the park.
Yeah.
So, what they got going on there too. Same stuff, just taking precautions, keeping people away from the water.
Yep, Lars reached out to me as well up at Castle. So if we have to, we could buzz up there. But like Russ said, there is we're exploring fields around here, and we should be able to find some that aren't close to the river or that aren't really affected. So.
And I would even take it just a quick step further. While we're on the camera here, and we're kind of the ones that are all over social media, let's not forget about some of the other teams. I think Besley's kind of in a low ground.
Yeah.
Newmarket, they're in low ground. I know they've got good neighbors there in Elko. Just if you're watching this, maybe think about where those teams are at. Let's make sure that they can get their games in. I think we'll all be fine, but let's look out for each other.
And this, could potentially be with the circumstances, maybe an area where the board or the commissioner can step in and even make an amendment to deadline, for completing games. Obviously there's so much logistics that go into, booking the playoff fields and everything ahead of time, but these are certainly extraordinary times, and certainly those could call for extraordinary measures. You've mentioned a couple of other teams are having some of the same issues. Have you been personally in contact with any of them? Are you aware of any of the measures that they've taken, or some of the experiences that they've had?
Well, I haven't talked to anyone, but New Markets field, they always have issues in right field for the most part.
Yeah.
It kind of sits down in there. Vesely, it kind of comes in from right field, isn't that right? So they're little low areas. So when you get heavy rain, it kind of happens. Like I said, I have not talked personally to those guys yet.
I think Alco's got all the sprinklers on.
Yeah, I'll go.
They're up there on top. It's windy. They're above
Yep.
the clouds. They get sun. No, in all seriousness, I think they stay pretty dry. They have pretty good runoff there, and they stay nice and dry.
Yeah, I mean, I know even fields that aren't at low elevation, that aren't seeing the rain that you've had, just south of the metro there, are experiencing, drainage issues. I mean, they're nowhere near the level that you've had, but just the number of rainouts, across the board. I mean, certainly it's impacting everybody. And I'm personally bummed because we had a game scheduled against you
Absolutely.
guys, and that was going to be our first experience down there, and I was really looking forward to being a part of that. We've fortunately been able to make a backup plan already and get that game rescheduled. But I know, just speaking personally, we've got a stretch of 21 games where or 21 days where we're gonna play 11 games. And at this age, this level, that's going to create some issues as well. But what else are you seeing as kind of runoff from the main issue as far as impact on the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into this, there were 2 games that we needed to make up. So now we're kind of fortunate right now. The 2 games that we're coming up on are 2 games that we just scheduled because we wanted a couple extra games. One was with the Voyagers,
Yeah.
and then the other one was with Metro Loons. So those technically we could throw them away. We're going to try to get them in. But obviously, our priority is going to be into the required division and interdivision games. That's really how it's all going to shake out. Is where we can try to get these games in to make them up. I don't think. We've got a couple guys at most positions, including pitching. So I think we'll be fine as far as like the depth issue, and we'll still be feeling it. So we're assuming pop some ibuprofen and.
Yeah.
Be walking around a little limp the next day, but it'll be fine. But I don't think we have quite the 11 games in 21 days issue that you got going.
Or a double header you have maybe for us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's flip the pillow here and talk about the cooler side a little bit. You guys are off to a great start. You're having a great season. Talk a little bit about who has really stood out from a performance perspective, and how you guys feel about where you're going to end up.
So right off the bat, from the top, from our offensive perspective, guy having a great year, Scott Paulson. Catcher, he's been around. If you've been playing in Southern Minnesota, you probably know Scott Paulson. You've been on the baseball field with him. A longtime player for the Northfield Knights. Before we got him, I think he took 1 or 2 years off, and somehow we lured him out to the field and said, "Hey, you got to play." I think it took him, not very long. Maybe that first season he didn't really. It didn't take him long. He's back, and now for him to be kind of reaching just a peak hitting performance right now, he's on his game. Offensively, he's great. Throws guys out. Everything's in front of him. I'm the guy that pitches to him, so I know where I can throw it. I know I can bounce it out to play with the guy in third, and it's going to be in front of him. Solid all-around guy. But again, going back to me on the mound, if you think about the treat that I get, if you look at any given night, our roster, the guys behind me, the guys that I'm thrown to, there are nights that it's just like, come on, man. Like, I just got to throw strikes. Go out there, throw strikes. These guys are going to make plays. And they do, it's fun. I just get ground balls, get fly balls, and turn around and watch. And that's the way it is, so just have fun.
Yeah, a couple of our losses are by 1 or 2 runs. More competitive. Rosemont came in, they played well against us. They beat us 7-0. But like Russ said, yeah, they're a good team. They're very solid. It's going to be interesting because we beat Burnsville the first game of the year, and we play them, I think, one of our last games of the year.
Yep.
So it's going to be really interesting. But Scott, like Russ said, Scott is just hitting everything. He's just gapping everything, getting doubles, stealing bases. But he's playing this year. He's playing part-time for the Knights a little bit, isn't he, Russ? So he's getting extra at-bats, and he's doing well for them too with the young kids.
Yep, absolutely. But up and down the lineup, it's I can be quoted as saying I wouldn't want to pitch to our team.
Yeah, we got the big guy, Mike Rothstein. So he hasn't played every game, but when he does, I mean, holy cow! That one pop up it was like a mile. I never seen, like you said, Russ. It was ridiculous. So he hits everything really hard. Big guy. He's like 6'6", and he's fun to watch. Hasn't pitched yet. Hopefully we get him on the mound, but first baseman. Brian Cease came back this year. He hasn't played for 3 years now. Leadoff guy, fielder very fast, solid outfield. So we feel pretty good this year. 2 wins against Webster helps, obviously, and it was kind of nice that we have those games late in the year, which we filled with your team,
Sure.
Josh, and with also New Market. So that helped. We have some leeway with that, and if more rain happens, then we'll be like you guys. You just have to push everything late in July and just cram everything in.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like the farmers are feeling definitely well fed. Might be time for a little bit more sunshine in that equation. You certainly have had a
And
lot
some
of
heat.
rain.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad you guys are feeling great about your season, about your outlook. Do you anticipate kind of finishing up, and how do you think you'll do in the playoffs?
Every year I'd love to get into that AAA bracket. That's the goal, right? Like everyone
Yeah,
wants to
great.
get to the big one. If that's not what you're out for, I mean, everyone wants to win, and you always want to win the big one, right? I guess above all, though, kind of our main goal is to have fun. That's one of the things that I've even had this discussion with Paul. Everyone's got their stuff. Your family's at home. You got your things going on. You may have good issues. You may have bad things going on. Whatever. When you show up to the field, at least for our squad, you get to be yourself. You get to be a kid, and that's kind of the rule number one with us. So you show up, you get to play ball, you get to be a kid for the time that we're there. Put all your issues aside and play. But we do like to win too, so we want to try to get to the top if we can. If I'm going to predict where we land, we could sneak in the bottom of that AAA. I think realistically, probably in the AA. And I like where we look. If we get in there, we've got some depth at all positions, including pitching. And, I wouldn't want to be matched up with us, I guess. So,
Yeah, we have 5 pitchers, so we could play all day, with different guys. So, and we try, even on games that really matter, we try to play everybody. If 14 guys show up, we try to play 14 guys. You're at bat, you're going to run, you're going to do something. And like Russ said, that's just, we're 35 and over. It's not about winning triple A's. You're playing baseball, you're running around, having a blast. So
You got to keep guys engaged. You got to keep guys showing up. Got to keep them fed. Got to keep that culture healthy. Certainly a credit to you guys for doing that. You're sitting at 7-4. You're right there, just 2.5 games back of Burnsville. You mentioned that you're going to line up with them again before the end of the year. bumped up against quite a bit, being down in the South. How well do you know those guys? How well do you know just some of the struggles they've been having? And what would you care to share in terms of what they're experiencing?
Well, from what I talked to, I do see a few of the parents or some of the guys on the team because they're parents of others in the Northfield Baseball Association. So I see them at the park a lot. And what it amounts to is, they've got 2-3 kids playing ball. By the time
Yeah.
you're coaching, by the time you're, all the things day to day it's the grind. And if you get a roster, like what we have, we got like a 25-man roster.
Yeah.
And, still with 25, there are nights that we show up and it's like, really? We only got 8? And it's like the night before. And then we beg a couple guys to come and we get 9
Yeah.
or 10 and then we're good. But there are some nights where we get like, we'll fill the dugout with 20. But, I think that equation just wasn't working out all that well for them. And that's what it sounds like it just ended up being. And that's the struggle, it's part of the culture. You got to make sure you're maintaining, keeping guys happy, while winning enough to keep people interested, but also, still getting out there having fun. And I mean, I think it's a little bit of everything. If you asked me to put my personal thought on it, they were right there, man. I mean, you saw back-to-back years they won the single A.
We couldn't beat them.
Yeah. They were a good squad. There's no reason why they couldn't have even jumped up and done some damage in Double A. And honestly, they were probably like 2 or 3 guys short of being a real contender for like high Double A, maybe sneaking into Triple A. So it's one of those things that you just it's tough, right? So like, what are the things you got to do to put together that squad, keep everyone happy, to make sure that it keeps happening? And gosh, I sure haven't figured it out yet, but I'm willing to keep trying. That's what makes baseball fun. I think it's too bad. I never want to see a team fold. In my time, we've seen, I think the first to go was Faribault. Then we saw Union Hill fold. Now Webster. Who
St.
else?
Patrick.
St. Patrick. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to just, for our league to be as good as it is, we got to get the young bucks. The guys just turning 35 or whatever, they got to move on into our league. And for 5 years ago up to now, that's happened. We got a lot better. So that has to keep happening. Shout out to Vesley for absorbing a lot of those guys that still wanted to play.
Yeah.
Vesley got a lot better.
Absolutely.
They got a lot better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and certainly many of the the issues that you mentioned Webster were facing, are not unique to anybody in this league. We've all got jobs and kids and competing priorities, and we all have to kind of make decisions, and that's why we have a roster of 20 up to 30 guys, right? That we can draw from to field a competitive squad and have some depth and some consistency. Talk a little bit about how having a town ball team in your community and having a natural kind of progression to the 35 and older league has helped some of those small town communities. And then talk a little bit too about some of the struggles about maybe, it's having a smaller pool to draw from, right? And being a small community. You guys have a ton of teams down there for your geography that you are, competing with in terms of drawing from a player pool. But just talk about some of the highs and some of the lows of filling your roster and keeping it rounded out.
I can start. We're lucky. So Dundas has where we play. So people want to play in Dundas. So that helps. We started grabbing guys from the Dukes, Josh Mosh, our shortstop, and hopefully others eventually that are turning 35 or even close to 40. There's always seems to be like a 6-year, 5-year gap. Someone stops amateur ball, kids are born, kids are getting involved in stuff, and then there's a gap, and then I want to go back play baseball again, and then that starts up again. Yep. That happened to you, Russ, right? So you were out for a while, and myself and Chad, or I think Chad contacted you first year, developing the team, and Russ was the first guy that Chad talked to build a team. So, and it doesn't seem like 10 years, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, so my story is, played high school, played town ball, I played college ball, teammate of Rathmans at Augsburg. Augsburg College at the time, now at Augsburg University. So my town ball was with Faribault Lakers for 10 years. I think I played through 2009, hung it up. I had kids. I think it's exactly 6 years off. And the first year when I turned 35 was my first year of the Outlaws. It's myself, Paul Jesh, and Chad Marks. We started it up. I still remember that first time we went out to Secular Park in the double barrel cage. We were throwing some batting practice.
I remember that.
Good times. And actually the thing that got me back into it, funny story. So we moved to Northfield in 2009, and within the first year, neighbors being neighborly, and he's like, "Well, we play church league softball on Sundays. You want to join up?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll go about, get little escape time and go play some softball. Most nights get a couple dingers, but where's the pride in hitting dingers in church league softball?"
250.
So when you get the call from Paul and Chad about playing some baseball again, I mean, my first response was like, let's see how it goes. I'll show up on nights that I pitch, and we'll just do that. I won't even hit. And here I am on one of the management teams, and 10 years later, and I'm wearing all this stuff. I mean, you see behind me, I've got all this outlaw gear. That's what initially saying, "I'll just show up on nights that I pitch" led to. So.
Yeah, again, probably not a trajectory that's unique to just you. There's a lot of guys who, like Paul mentioned, had that gap, where they really focused on growing and developing their family, and then usually a stint in some kind of D League or whatever it might be. But there's just and the camaraderie that you can experience in this league. You guys are an absolute staple, in terms of just the competitiveness, and love having your group. Look forward to eventually playing down in Dundas for my first time. But talk a little bit about.
That's one thing I want to joke about in there too, and that's one of the things that we love is, putting our tie on it with the town ball stuff. If you can ever get to a Dukes team, come watch a Dukes game. Come down to Dundas, watch them play. You're going to love the experience. Part of how we do what we do is honestly a lot of, we're stealing from, how they're doing what they're doing. It's
Sure.
We don't draw near the crowds that they do, but we do steal a few people. So if we play a Sunday 5:30 game right after the Dukes game, we'll do $2 foul balls or $5 foul balls, and that usually gets the family with a bunch of kids.
Yeah,
brings them in. They're chasing our foul balls. It's been a couple of years since I've had to personally go chase a foul ball, and that's great. So we get kids. All that money goes right into the concession stand, so that it works out to me a good situation there. We jazz it up with Paul's daughter is the public address announcer. She's awesome at it. Honestly, I mean, if the St. Paul Saints wanted to scout someone out, or the Twins or someone to see who they should have be the next PA, she's it, man. I mean, she's awesome.
Toby Gardenhire and Dave St. Peter, if you're listening, please go out. Both these guys' contact information is on the Federal League website. So please don't be shy about that.
I've got the letter of recommendation ready to go.
Yeah, Dick Tucker too. He's a radio guy. He showed up and talked to her after and said, "You can be in the radio. That's what you do." In the fifth inning. So we try to keep it interesting and fun, and it's a blast. It's a blast. Love it. Now, I'm getting older, so I'm up in the booth more, which is good. Nice on my knees.
Sure. Well, you guys certainly do a fantastic job down there, and obviously your field is just an absolute beauty. And I hope that you guys are able to return to play as quickly as possible. If you are listening to this and you are able to lend a hand or remove sandbags, or you know anything about kind of restoration of any of the pieces that either this team or this field or others are experiencing, make yourself available, reach out. Certainly wish you guys a healthy and successful ending to the season. Really appreciate you being on and just spending some time with us.
Appreciate it.
Our thoughts and prayers are with your communities as well, as people are navigating the very real challenges of how this has impacted just not only, of course, your teams, your players, but your communities as well.
Thanks, Josh. I really mean this. Some of the guys who come through the league, they do stuff that really kind of elevates and brings other teams to kind of jump up to the next level. I'll give a plug for Torrey Holt. A few years ago, he started a lot of the social media stuff, and I think a lot of people's first gut reaction is, it's maybe a little overboard and maybe it's a little too much. We picked it up. We started with it. We ran with it. It's a good thing. It's good for the league. Again, I think some of the stuff Lars is doing with social media, wonderful. It's great. It steps it out, brings things to the next level for not only for the teams that these people are from, but for the league as a whole. Some of the stuff you're doing here with this podcast, again, bringing it up to the next level. I guess the thing that I would challenge is anyone out there watching this, what else? Like, what are the really good things that you can bring to the league? Challenge us. Let's bring it up. Let's step it up to the next level. Let's do something great. I love things like this. Similarly, look around the league, some of the guys that we're blessed to have in this league. You got Matt Meyer. We got Bauer in the league. Who else am I missing? Some of those guys, if we can attract and retain some of those guys to be in this league, that's awesome. Let's do it. Let's keep them. Bring more on, because that's going to make our league so much better. Let's keep it rolling.
Yep, and the amateurs. Let's go. Bring in the amateurs.
Yep.
I appreciate I appreciate the kind words. Appreciate you guys listening. And appreciate you being on. And I totally agree. In terms of just what Lars has done, see Torrey Holt has been a trailblazer in many ways, as a manager, as a board member, as a contributor to this league. There's the talent, the product is so fantastic and totally worthy of not only things like this, but just the effort, the time, and attention that people give to it. It just really is a special community, and I'm humbly contributing what I can. I think we can certainly step it up from here in terms of not only this podcast, but all around. I love your challenge in terms of just calling out people. There are so many talented individuals in this league, both on the field and off, that we can all just collectively contribute a little bit and just really keep this thing rolling and create opportunities for the next generation to keep playing this game that we all love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good luck the rest of the way, and look forward to meeting you guys on the field here soon in a couple of weeks.
Yep,
Yes,
sounds good.
Sounds great.
All right. Thanks.
That is all the time we have for this edition of Fed Up. Thank you for listening. Once again, we will be back again with a brand new episode next week for you to enjoy over your Independence Day. All of the rainouts and all of the schedule being jam-packed in July. We're going to have just a ton of baseball to watch and look forward to in the coming weeks. Many teams are taking a break for the 4th of July holiday, so we will have just about half the season crammed into just over 3 weeks left in the season. We look forward to bringing you lots more in terms of player updates, team updates, standing updates, new Fed Up Power Rankings. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.